Bio Ritmo's first gig.
Yeah.
You mean like as a salsa band, which I wasn't there for, or as an experimental clave-free group?
Clave-free, clave light.
The first gig was as a percussion ensemble. It was just to be percussion, element for this premiere of a movie at the Science Museum here in Richmond. United some of the drummers, percussionists around town. I mean, it was like reggae drummers, rock and roll drummers, punk rock, whatever. And we got together a few times and just learned some Latin rhythms and just did that. But it stuck, and already Jorge, myself, and Jim Thompson, we wanted to play salsa because we've been listening to Jorge's salsa collection, and we were really into that. So Bio Ritmo at that point got popular just playing these very repetitive, super simplistic grooves, just Latin grooves. But that's how we rolled until I left for just a few months at the end of '92, and then Justin came on in '93, and that's when they really turned into a salsa band. We had the addition of piano then and a couple of saxophones. Justin was definitely one of the main people who trained himself, I think, the hardest and did the most research, to really take us further. So much so that when I got back, I remember calling Jorge like, "Are you guys still playing this?" And I was like,
"Yeah, man, I don't know, Ray, but you been practicing, man, because we're like a real salsa band now." Like, we're not messing around now.
And that's all we did back then, just messing around, So sure enough, I mean, having some nice arrangements, playing some awesome songs, and I was happy to come on and play Guido and start singing background vocals. I never dreamed that I was going to be singing or anything like that in front of people. I was always happy to be hiding behind the drums.
But yeah, the first rehearsal I ever had with Bio Ritmo, Jorge pulled me aside and said, this is another kind of typical Jorge story. He said, I just want you to know, man, it doesn't matter who you know in this band. I know you're friends with Gabo, but if you can't play timbales, you can't be in the band. And I said, all right, and he said, count off the song, and I counted it off, and I got a little excited, and I threw in an abanico the first time, and I don't even think, I think within 10 seconds he was like, okay, you're in the band. And the other thing is, we were naive enough to think that we could start writing songs almost from the beginning. So many salsa bands that are relatively successful never write their own material. It's just covers. As we know, that's very popular. But from the very beginning, we were working on original stuff because we thought, why not? And I don't know. We worked together like more, I guess, a little bit like a rock band would, where we all had creative input in every song. I think
you had me that came in and sang the song.
Yeah, I did
everybody else had to
thing.
figure it out.
Yeah, but people were. They were good ideas, so because they were such good ideas, you can sing a melody and people can recognize if it's going to be a good song. You know what I mean? And it had that. So even like the horn players, that's the next step, by the way, is getting talk about the horns, I guess. But people like Bob and then even before him, Zip and Sid, or Sip and Zid, whichever you want. They were good about helping us to arrange, like Ray's ideas, Jorge's ideas, eventually a few of my ideas, into actual arrangements.
Well, stylistically, I mean, Ritmo, we were drawn to the classic salsa. I mean, by then, 80s salsa had happened, and it was definitely an established style, which I still love. But musically, but stylistically, it wasn't so great. Yeah. So we were always drawn and wanted to emulate the style of the 70s. So, we'd always go thrift shopping. I remember it was like digging for gold. We'd come with these shirts. I remember wearing a lot of band lawn shirts, and textured polyester pants. We stole like that. That's how we like to dress. That's to us. That is, quintessential international style. I think it's important to say that Bio Ritmo is definitely rooted in that. We love 60s, 70s, and if I was to hear our music, I wouldn't immediately say, wow, it really sounds like 70s. Even though we always tried to you know, kind of hope for a 70s kind of style to our music. I think because of our different influences, it just, you know, it's come out like it's come out, which I think is beautiful. You know, I love it. I'm very proud of it. For me to come back, you know, I was definitely a stickler about returning to the original kind of sound that we had pursued at the beginning, you know, which is a Puerto Rican influence, vintage influence, if you will, sound. And I was very eager to, you know, return to the collective writing system, you know. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
As far as writing and arrangement, we really didn't have a great system, which we have to this day, until Marlise Simmons joined on the piano and Tim Whitaker on trombone. Between those two people, I think just rounded up just a great machine, you know, which back then we were actually calling it the Bio Ritmo Salsa Machine Band, because I wanted us to have that aesthetic of like all these parts were all part of this machine that's working and finally is well oiled and well tuned, and it really felt like that. So much so that when we recorded the album after this, you know, we had this group of people, we were like, let's call it Bio Ritmo. You know, let's just have it be a self-titled album, just because we pretty much were starting at square one, and that's started what I call, you know, our second incarnation, pretty much, our third incarnation, really, technically. But to this day, you know, we started. I think it's the best incarnation of Bio Ritmo. You know, these last 10 years. This guy was, you know, sat behind that booth, and you know, I remember singing a couple of responses, you know, to the chorus. When it came to me doing my you know, permanent tracks, and and I remember singing a couple. He was like, "All right, you want to try singing those now?" I was like, "Damn!" So
yeah, he wasn't afraid to let us know.
Yeah, he wasn't afraid, which we totally appreciated.
Yeah.
I think that was kind of the last recording where we were so concerned with sounding like something from the past, you know, sounding like a vintage, you know, because with the Green Album we were like, you know, we want a dirty sound, because we want to sound like this, and then with John Fauci it's the same thing, we want to sound like, you know, the old Javier Vasquez record or whatever, and which was great, and, you know, we learned a lot from it, but I think by the time Bionico came around, which is the next recording, I think that's the first album where we really played with the confidence of, okay, we're a salsa band. We don't have to concern ourselves with becoming a salsa band. Right. It's like anything we do is going to be salsa, because that's what we do. So it was the first album where we, I think, let our other influences come into play more so. You know, we weren't so concerned with traditional salsa sound. And Bionico really, you know, I think showcased that, and that's, I mean, that was awesome. I remember when that came out, I was really so proud of the band, and just really, I felt like I was in a different place. I felt like we were in a different place, you know. And the Bionico, I mean, it led us to the album we're getting ready to put out now, which is La Verdad. So stylistically speaking, I mean, after Bionico, La Verdad is more so, I think, our influence is coming through. Seems like there's a little bit more coming into play, not just the typical salsa rhythm and style, you know, we're just introducing a little more different rhythms and different sounds and things, and yeah, I think that's why I kind of thought of naming it La Verdad, because it's more truthful to our, you know, to who we are stylistically. This album is more truthful to where we come from, you know, which is everywhere. You know, we come from all points, you know. We're all different colors, we're all different, you know, styles of music as far as our background and that kind of thing. And so I'm really excited about La Verdad. It's coming out September 20th. right after we come back from France. I'm sure we'll be excited from that trip and just ready to promote this album. I think it's a great time for us. You know, I mean, we've been around 20 years, but you know what? It feels like we just started 10 years ago, really, as opposed to 20. We're all still learning. That's another beautiful thing about, you know, playing with these people, is that we're all still learning, and we're all still finding out about things and discovering old music and you know, discovering new music for that matter. You know, we're all so concerned with the vintage style. We're all record collectors and we love old music, and but you know, there's a lot of good stuff still happening that's fresh and new, and you know, I think we just keep bringing all this stuff to the table. I just am happy to be part of a group that is so rooted in old traditions and a music, really a music that has been around for so long and almost hasn't changed in a way. And I say that in a good way, because you know, salsa is salsa. You know what I mean? It's like saying blues. You know, blues. No matter how you play it, it's still blues. And the beautiful thing is that you can keep bringing new things into this music and still have that core. You know, it's unmistakably salsa. And salsa itself, I mean, think about the name. You know, it started as a mixture of things. You know, much to the chagrin of the old school, which you know, I remember hearing an interview with Tito Puente where he was like, you know, he was so mad that he would go to the record store and always see his albums in the salsa section. He didn't want to be associated with salsa. But then after a while, I was like, okay, I play salsa. What can you do? La Verdad.